Hej allesammans. Jag heter Pekka. Jag jobbar i Skanska Finland, men jag har jobbat som 1,5 år i Skanska Norge, men jag kom tillbaka till Finland de sista fall, men nu jag ska byta till engelsk för en presentation. So, kind of a continuation to the different approaches of TAKT. I have to say that we are kind of what we've been following from the first pilot was how we call it the Californian way of TAKT production planning, and that is something that we kind of learned on the study trip to California to learn from DPR and Bolt, and also for the UC Berkeley folks on how they do it. And we see that it fitted a little bit better to our scope because we are in one of our units, we are building these maybe bigger, more complex projects that can be somewhat compared to hospitals. And also that we've been using the last planner system for some 10 years. And we noticed that there's some like similarities between that it maybe takes a bit more approach to the subcontractors to get involved on the planning as well. So that is maybe the approach that we had. But I have two case studies. There's a kind of the Skanska view of how did it go, but we were also lucky to be able to do these actual conference studies with all those Building 2030 researchers, such as Olli and Jonas. So I have like two projects. First, kind of how did it go in our way, and then a bit more on how did it go with the study-wise. So the first one was an urban environment house here in Helsinki, Finland. Around 83 million was the budget for it, about 40,000 square meters. And the goal in it was to kind of create flow, trust, and transparency within the production. And maybe the real reason was to kind of survive from the interior phase. We were quite late on the implementation of TAKT, but it was kind of the site manager said that he's a bit worried that with this amount of room in the 3 different blocks, that it might be in a way that if we go traditionally, that after there's only 6 months left, there's one block around 15,000 square meters that no one is occupying as kind of working there. So he was really keen on hearing that how can we kind of tighten up the internal phase on it. And then we had this study after the implementation of kind of see that how does the implementation of the TAKT production actually impact the trade flow, like Olli said about the process flow and trade flow. And if we see that with TAKT we can focus on the process flow to get that a bit more tighter, that how did it actually affect on the trade flow at the same time. So we had the site observations with the continuation video camera documentation, around 650 hours of material, and I will show some results on that. But kind of how to start the pilot, we did a lot of back office work here in on the main office before introducing the TAKT production way of working for the site. So we had the line of balance or the flow line schedule from the site. With our crew, we here kind of saw that how could it look with these lines already aligned in the master schedule if we took it into Excel and see it kind of like a TAKT matrix, then divide it into 2 areas. Then also see a little bit on the blueprints that what are the how many square meters of flooring, or how many meters of cabling, or how many kilometers of plumbing there will be. So we're kind of we have some kind of a idea when we are taking the subs working with us to kind of see that if they're saying that, well, we're going to need some 4 weeks to get this corridor done, and then we can ask that, okay, well, you have 15 meters of plumbing there, so how many meters are you actually gonna produce in 1 week or so? So kind of we wanted to be prepared for the first pilot as good as possible to kind of not fall into the first pitfall of just not knowing what to do and asking for the subs. But we did a lot of workshop with them, and it was mainly focusing on how we can actually hit the milestone that is seen as a diamond over there. It was this like a technical flooring, and almost all of the trades had almost 80% of their work that had to be done before that. electrician had all of their cabling and rackets also underneath the flooring. So that was kind of seen as a milestone that we have to hit, because that creates a huge snowball effect if we kind of are late on those milestones, and it will affect for the whole of the project. So it started as a pilot. So in the beginning, in February, they were kind of asking us that, do you know how much this cost that we're sitting here 4 hours a day and nothing is happening? And then after a couple of meetings, they were starting to make sense for them when we kind of noticed that, okay, like how many hours do you need to succeed with your work and so on. And then in the end, when we were kind of handing over to only for the project to handle it, and the main office backup was forgotten, they were already asking on the next weeks that when are the folks from the main office coming to host us? We want to get to the next step as well. So in the end, we were kind of focusing on what are the main areas and where is the most of the current work that they have to do before the false flooring. And in the end, the red areas were the most important ones. They were the functional area of this whole 1,500 square meter area that was the most occupied during the whole months that we planned for work. And it was fun to see that in the end, you notice that, okay, there's still these big yellow areas and people can work parallel on other areas as well, because in the beginning, especially the electricians thought that and said to us that they need the whole 1,500 square meter area for themselves for at least 9 weeks, that they need all the space, because that's if they're not going to get it, they will not succeed. But in the end, when we were showing with BIM model and people telling how their work routines are and so on, we noticed that there's actually 3 of these functional areas that were able to divide it into smaller blocks. This is how the tracking of the production was done via Excel. And a summary from Skanska point of view was that we were able to create more reliable plan, especially the electricity contractor. They were very happy after the 9 weeks of what they asked, when they were able to reduce it into, if I remember correctly, it was 2 + 3 weeks of usage of space per area. So like Olli said, that there was these studies that the electricians had made a bit more money with TAKT production projects. Our site manager said that it was somewhere in the mid phase of the TAKT implementation that he noticed that the electricians had new Mercedes brochures in their lunch table. So maybe there was some correlation with that. But overall, the tighter collaboration between us and the subs was we were able to find some of these possible snowball effects and eliminate them as early as possible. And also, fun fact that the site manager noticed that actually 1 working day on site, thinking about how much time are you able to spend on planning, it was equal to 1 man year of work in the in the average time period, because there was 240 persons working throughout the day. So if you're spending 1 day of doing nothing, you're actually wasting a year of work at that time. So it's a good thing to plan as much as you can ahead to make it work for them to actually work. And the requirements for success was you really need the relevant stakeholders. You don't need the project managers. What Jonas showed in the network, that it's better to have the actual trades, and if they are discussing about who comes what and what is the amount of work that you need me to handle before you can continue for that. So we noticed that actually helped us a lot in those workshops. And of course, we have to utilize the best information and knowledge that we have. And the leadership of the site manager was very important, because we have had a lot of cases where only the scheduling engineer is doing the work. But if there's no leadership above him taking it throughout the project, it just ends up into this Groundhog Day that the scheduling engineer redos the TAKT plan every other day. But even though we said that everything went quite well, it was fun to see in the study that actually there was a lot of occasions where there was interruptions between trades. That when you look at the videos, there's even though we were planned that there's one crew, 4 people, 2 to 4 people, 1 week on one area, still we were able to find this picture from the video that there's actually 2 crews working at the exactly same square meter of a space at the same time, even though we planned that this should not happen and there was like 1,499 square meters space for the other crew to do something else. But still we noticed that, and that was kind of eye-opening in a way that we noticed that it was the first pilot. We did a 1 week TAKT, but it still didn't mean that we were kind of getting rid of all the buffers that we have. And that was also kind of an implication to that the trade flow was not interrupted, even though we focused on the process flow, because the 1 week TAKT is holds so much buffer in it. Then we have this other case. It's called case Lippulaiva. It was a pretty big shopping center, around 170 million euros. Construction time kind of started before COVID, but then most of the time was run on COVID times. So it made it a bit hard with that one as well. Then there was a question about this: how will or could TAKT production work in a non-repetitive projects? I think this was a good example of that it actually works. There was a lot of different services. There was shops, cafes, restaurants, grocery stores that fulfill 1/3 of the whole area, and then of course metro station, bus terminals, and so on and so on. But it's kind of made us see that we have to plan as early as possible, and with the kind of TAKT key principles of seeing what is functional and what is not. If there's backlogs, how can we use those throughout the longer period of the huge project? But like in the planning phase, we did this rough area division and used these HVAC zones. So we kind of see that, okay, there's the big supermarket. So this is the HVAC zone that is incorporated in here. Then there's some of the cafes and stores are in the west part. So we kind of first go with how the designers have decided that what would be the functional areas be, and then start kind of digging in deeper after that. So the pay schedule was made. We had workloads. We had like the number of square meters and meters and cables and everything. So we used that for the phase scheduling so that we roughly know that how long would it actually take for different subcontractors to work on different areas. And then we also directed that we have to when do we have to finish with the framework to kind of get the water tightness, so to actually start the interior works on the bottom phase. So then the TAKT areas were divided into smaller ones so that we can maybe use some multiple ones to get some roughly 800 square meters of size. There could be something that is over 1,000, then something that is 294. So there was a lot of variance between what the areas were, and that created kind of a lot of documentation and something for the whole crew to understand. And it's not just 1 week of work here, and then you go to the west side and so on. So it was. But we still were able to manage to use the TAKT in 1 week period in there. But actually, in the end, when we were able to get into the smaller activities, we thought about changing it to a half a week TAKT, but that was something that didn't end up going that well. We weren't kind of prepared of how to speed up the engine in the end or put another gear on front. But kind of the principles of doing the planning involve the subcontractors. We have these last planner meetings we have the areas, we have the locations, we have the time, and then maybe have the erection of the structure as a guideline that when do we start, and then iterate it week after week when we got more information on where the designs are going in and what weeks and so on. So then the final TAKT plan looked kind of this cool rainbow as we see from many other projects. And in the end, at this time, we didn't have good tools to go in digitally. So we used Excel, and still we see that kind of especially for the planning phase, Excel is still maybe the best tool because normally all the engineers know how to use it, at least in some level, and it's easy to modify in the beginning of the planning. Maybe for the control phase, it should be something else. In here, we had the main schedule in the kind of a flow line method. Then with the last planner, it was created into the kind of a short-term scheduling within the. So we had the TAKT plan done with the last planner way. Then it was implemented as a 10-week look-ahead plan to this digital tool that we had for the section managers, and then they assigned the work to the site managers for the 3-week planning section as well. And then we had these collaboration meetings with the folks. So there was a lot of information from between different areas that how many tasks have done there. Then we had this also like in Excel that, okay, one line means that the work has started, and the second line to get it cross actually means that it has already been done. But kind of what we noticed in here, and especially when you go to these non-repetitive projects, you kind of the TAKT plan itself doesn't get the tasks done, even though you spend 1,000 hours to plan it. But the time that you actually start the work, and if it's planned for more than 6-9 months, you have to do the short-term planning and collaboration throughout the project, and also update it if necessary through these follow-ups. There might be need for reducing or adding resources. Kind of implies to what Olli said about the LBMS project in Oakland, that you at some point you might be able to reduce the amount of workers, but you have to do it and see it on this look ahead planning as well. So there's one thing of creating a plan, but the other one is to kind of control it and make it evolve at the same time as the production follows. Then we did some research here as well. It was for visual management. So we had these TAKT areas and that TAKT schedules. They were visible on site. So we had these boards where you can see the plan, and then you have also the blueprints of the plan where you are. Then we had some color coding, kind of support the visual ways of seeing where we are. The TAKT and the TAKT cards were shown as with the same color as the company's clothes or logos in their plan. So you can kind of you have the card of what to do in what point, kind of a bit of what's in the Kanban way working. So we did that. And then the TAKT areas were marked on site. We were using natural boundaries and the room space numbering that was also in the designs to kind of make it seen as well planned as possible. And we were kind of think that would this information help the actual workers to do their work. And then kind of the second to last slide that I have also referred to the maturity model that we were able to do with the Building 2030 consortium work. That where do we think that we are now in Skanska, Finland? The green is something that I see, or we see that we have succeeded and we can do again on a project. Yellow is something that we have been able to partly do on some of our projects. Might be a bit kind of on the kind of have a personal risk that there's one guy or a girl who can do this, but we have been for now unable to kind of scale it up for the processes that we have. And then the ones that are not color coded is something that we haven't done just yet. So, but we would need some verification that how this actually worked, maybe a master thesis or a conference paper to kind of prove that where we are right now. And kind of a summary, Skanska Finland, the TAKT production development has been done from project to project, still is ongoing on that way. We have done some of these like hotel renovations as well with 2.5-day TAKT that was very successful. But since we're not doing those kind of works every year, we're still focusing on these maybe more complex hospital projects where we still use the 1-week TAKT to kind of see that can we get the design management involved to kind of go into the way that Olli said, that if we were able to manage the design so that we already have a TAKT plan of where we're going to build what and what point, so we can kind of get the benefit out of that one. And for the future, maybe we will have some concepts for different types of projects. Of course, the integration of design, procurement, production, and then higher level of prefabrication with some industrial logistics. It was something that was mentioned in the third level that we haven't just yet used that much. And of course, in the end, we have a lot of our own crew, blue and white colors. So what we want to see is that kind of create a higher well-being for our workers and of course for the subs as well to be able to work better in these big projects that we see that we still have to build in the future as well, or I can say that can build hospitals and so on that make the society a bit better. And in the end, it's just build bridges, not silos. Thank you.